And then he didn't even know what a service of summons was.
Hey, John, you got a lot of background noise there, buddy.
Sorry about that. They
me,
were
John?
talking, didn't realize we were unmuted. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, we can hear you, buddy.
Sorry.
He didn't know what the service of summons was.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. It's like,
I don't think he did.
dude, I don't think he did either. Like when
That's
he
why he
when he was
listened to you
first
when you
like, "What's
explained
that?" I thought he was just trying me to see if I could explain it to him.
Yeah, and then when you did, he actually listened. That's why I figured he didn't know. He was busy talking until then. Well, I mean, you know, he talks a lot up until then.
I liked JC. I liked what you said today in the video because I just watched it. You know, just before the show started, I happened to catch it and definitely got my energy going again. You know, hearing those people just act like that. You know, just the way they respond and stuff is you know, gets me going a little bit because it's like you said in the video about the obligation. You know, if you can't explain to me why I'm obligated to you, then obviously then some kind of other thing going on here. I'm not obligated and you're just trying to make it sound like I am and cover it up. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, why am I obligated to you? Well, because we have the guns. Because we're going to come and beat you up and arrest you if you don't do this, you know? Well, that's called something like slavery, you know?
Hey, John, if I may, remember the Last of the Mohican movie again? I love that movie. There's that scene where they're at the fort he goes into the colonel, and he's talking about General Webb gave him this agreement, and they had and they didn't write anything, gentlemen. It was just man to man. And then he said, you got a militia, and he said when the colonel said he wasn't going to honor the agreement or the contract, he said, has law been replaced with absolutism? And if it has, I no longer feel bound by that yoke. I mean, if they're not going to honor their own law, how can they expect other people to do so? It's no different than when you see a cop with no lights on going down and doing 25 miles an hour over the speed limit and then bump starts through a red light. Pisses everybody off, doesn't it? I'm not saying that's never justified. I'm just saying that's how people feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, JC. It's Tara.
Hey, Tara.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Hey.
Yo.
Hi. Who were you talking to? You called him a judicial officer, and I'm one of those people that doesn't even know the difference between that and somebody else. So who was that person?
Okay, the gentleman I was talking to was typically the magistrate of the magistrate courts. Like down here we have magistrate courts, which basically handle everything from misdemeanors, anything up to $7,500, and then criminal misdemeanors. And
they're appointed.
Yeah, they're appointed down here, and they don't even have to have a law degree. Okay, but they just take them and they go and give them the kind of weekend education, like, because most of what they're going to do is just going to be administration. That's it. Mm-hmm. People are going to come in there, and everything that they're doing in there would be perfectly fine in administrative court. And if I wish to consent to their administration, then there's no problem with it. And that's what I was saying. It's like, hey, look, as far as like legal, yeah, I'm doing this illegal and that illegal and whatever. I don't care, but you can't move until I plea, and I can't plea until there are records, facts on the record of the court. And when I started talking that with him, I mean, he didn't know what to do. He was just like, I'm not going to play these games with you, boy.
I heard that.
Yeah, that's just the default. It's
you
the
can
default
plead just like
bully.
all the other slaves do.
Yeah, they go into full default.
Just like everybody else.
Full default bully mode. That's what that is. Full default bully mode.
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean, if
do you
I would have
remember
had the time, and this is why I called it bad hair, bad hair traffic court date, because if I would have had the time, and I even put that down to 30 frames a second to try to render it, and if I could have gotten it out by, 6:30, I would have rendered it and gotten it put up, but it was going to take like 2.5 hours to render, and I was just like, I'll just do it with the green screen and not put up, because I actually have the video of the guy that I was talking to on the second half of that.
But
It'd be cool if you put that up for everybody to see.
I also
think it
thought
worked. I think it worked, JC. A lot of times people are trying to digest what you're saying and what they're listening to and just all the stuff going on. So I think sometimes simpler is better.
Didn't he also say to you that they aren't allowing even contested like appointments right now? But if you want to plead guilty, that's cool. But if you want to even challenge it, they're not doing that right now. Like, we're only allowing you to just come in here and say, I'll bow, and otherwise.
Well, I mean, and that's basically what they're doing right now. Is right now they're moving, and this is why it's kind of a critical moment, is because they're going to use the pandemic and all of this other stuff and Zoom court meetings, and it's going to morph into there's absolutely no law.
Right.
And it's all going to be administration, and everybody's just going to be property, and the owners can obviously do whatever they think is proper to their property. So, kind of by very definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone else claiming they can have property, but you can't, and our property is theirs for the taking.
Which kind of sounds a whole lot like slavery to me.
Yes, it's very close, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought the Yankees abolished that in the South.
Yeah,
I thought the Yankees solved us of our dilemma.
So what happened at the end of that? That, like, I heard the guy, I think, say, hey, if you're happy, I'm happy, or something. And you got to leave, and then they didn't set a new date with you right now, right? So are you just waiting for them to contact you, or are they?
No. It's like this. I already told them, look, you have to prove jurisdiction, okay? He already told me they don't have court till April. They don't have a plea on the record. There's no jurisdiction. I'm not going and getting a date. Even if you serve me, if you don't put facts of jurisdiction upon the record of the court, I ain't showing up. I am not showing up.
How do they prove jurisdiction?
They get a man or a woman onto the stand and testify to a certain set of facts of your wrongdoing.
Okay. And they
That's
don't
how
have
they
that.
prove jurisdiction.
Yep, and they obviously don't have that because they don't have a man or a woman. All they have is an officer, if he even showed up, right, to try to speak against you. And so there is none, right? Am I following?
Right. That's why I'm saying it's basically impossible for them to get jurisdiction if you contest it at all, which is why they say, they don't have to prove it for 6 months, because that's the only way they can play all these mind games with, like, the sovereign citizen people.
Unmuted.
You see what I'm saying?
No. How do they play a mind game with the sovereign citizen people?
Hey, Monarch, I muted you out because I was getting a lot of reverb, man. What were you saying, Tara?
I just said, so you said they were playing mind games with sovereign citizen people by doing something. What was it that they're doing?
It's the service of summons, and that's so incredibly difficult to find unless you know exactly what you're looking for. And the way that I really know, like, I 100% found out that it existed was by watching what the court did. Okay. So, but it's basically one of these things where if you go and look on the driver's license application, it's going to say somewhere on that application that you're agreeing to something that's not on the application. And they'll have some type of codified thing that's not exactly in the statutes of the state. It's somewhere buried in a book in the back of the DMV that basically says that if they pull you over with a driver's license, you're consenting to be summoned to the court without the court proving jurisdiction for 6 months.
Ooh.
Anytime within that window up to 6 months.
Yeah. So, and this is how the court keeps on making people come back and come back and kind of keeps looking like they're running over them. And they're really not. It's like they have jurisdiction over you that's not presumed or assumed, but you allowed it, you consented to it, because they have to have your consent for the jurisdiction. And that's how they can play these mind games. And that's where they try and break people down in the mind. You know, because after somebody goes back to court for like 3 times and then they see it not working and not working and not working, they lose faith. And then they give up jurisdiction because they lost faith, you know. And as soon as they lose faith, they go back to being that slave again. They're like, okay, I'll plead now. I'll be like everyone else, you know.
Yeah.
Right. They drop their rock position in their mind and then they consent. Well, they consent through either frustration or anger or whatever. And JC, how are you applying that to the quote unquote sovereign citizens? I mean, what was the scenario there? Why
Because
did you
sovereign
mention them
citizens would challenge jurisdictions and not understand why the court would just keep moving. You know, you see, and then by 6 months they gave up. They ain't challenged jurisdiction anymore. Court walked right over them because they gave it to them. So I'm gonna unmute Monarch.
They didn't stick it out. Yep.
What's going on, Monarch?
They're so impatient.
Tell me about it. I was actually thinking about naming that video, you know, sovereign citizen slams judges. Sovereign citizen teaching judges in law, but I couldn't bring myself to call myself a sovereign citizen, so I was just going to say SC slams judges in law.
South Carolina.
Represent.
And you don't like
Jason, I have a
oxymoron?
quick question.
Do what?
Go ahead, John.
I was just wondering, so I have a traffic ticket here in New York dealing with inspection sticker that I got in May of 2020. And you've offered me the same, but my question is how would we go about writing up, say, a written notice to the court that now we're going to require them to prove jurisdiction, because I know that the service of summons has expired with my case.
Okay, then I wouldn't.
Just ignore it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, basically, it's like I don't necessarily might not understand the question to the fullest extent, but I mean, if they just tried to pull you in again, I'd just write them back and be like, hey, you know, this is way over 6 months. The service of summons is up, so as soon as you prove jurisdiction, I'll come into court.
Okay. So just a simple notice.
No, I mean, I just write to the clerk.
Okay.
You know, it's like, hey, I'm just writing to you in good faith. And if you wish to be pretty diligent about it, I'd get them to, you know, stamp something saying received and mail it back to you.
Right. Okay.
So, and typically when you do stuff like that, like when you write the clerk of court something pertaining to your case, that's an issue to that case in that form or fashion, they typically will file it in the case.
Okay.
I think the
So-
service's summons is 18 months in California. I don't know about New York.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know exactly how you would go about finding that in each state. I know every state that I've seen it in, it's always been 6 months. And I've never, ever seen them go over 6 months.
18 months.
Yeah, that's all across the country. I've never seen them go over 6 months.
But there's a
That's-
pandemic.
yeah. Yeah, there's a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
we got you. We got you for 10 years.
That's great.
Well, I mean, technically they suspended the law.